so many brushes to choose from, have you noticed that most artists choose brushes with shorter handles and then they either hold them in the middle or down near the ferrule? Have you also noticed that the more serious artists will often use brushes with very long handles and hold them way back so far that it doesn't even look comfortable? Why do they do that, and what difference does it make? And most importantly, will it make that same difference for you in your paintings? Let's find out. Hi, I'm Tori Hagaman, and if you're a new friend visiting, I'm glad that you found my channel, and if you're an old friend coming back, welcome. As I said in the intro, I think with most artists, the tendency is to get smaller brushes, to either hold it like a pencil or at least kind of choke down on it, because that gives us more control of where that stroke will go. But I've been noticing that some of the artists that I like who do really sensational work, they are using brushes that are much, much longer, and they're holding them way back at the end. Just to give you a feel, this is a Princeton Summit Bright brush, and it is 12 inches long. So I want to test this theory out. I want to see, I think it's going to do two things. One, there's a tendency to really get up on your painting if you're that choked down on the brush. But if you're this far back, you obviously can only get so close to the painting. So I think that's one advantage. It forces you to stay back and have that kind of perspective. But the other thing is, with a short brush clamped down on it like this, you can really mess around with that. You can dab and you can rework that stroke. But I think with holding this brush back, what it's going to force me to do is scoop up a big piece of paint and lay a stroke down and leave it. It's really not going to, I just don't have enough control over it. The farther back you go, you can see it's just bouncier. I just don't have the control than if I was down here and there's no bounce in it. So I'm going to, since this isn't about the paint so much as it is the brushes, I'm just going to take some ultramarine blue, a little alizarin crimson, and a little white, and I'll probably get a little green of some kind. I'm going to mix some piles of that on a little paper plate, and I'm just going to dip a fair amount of paint, and I'm just going to start laying these brushes in, these brush strokes in. I'm going to get my photograph. These were some irises that a friend had cut out of her garden, and they have since withered, but I do have a photograph, and I'm just going to look at my reference photo, put in my lights and darks, and see what I can do with these long brushes. Stay tuned. I actually recorded myself as I did this painting, but this painting is so slow. This is actually at twice the speed. It doesn't look like it, but it is. And you'll notice I was choked down on my brush. That's such a habit for me. And I realized that I'm like, oh gosh, I've got to really back off of that brush. So, but it's so intentional. You're having to get so much paint on your brush, and it's very deliberate. You stop, you look at where the next color, the shape's going to go. You go in and get a lot of that paint on your brush. You put that one stroke in, and then you do it again. So it's forcing me again. This video is twice the speed that it actually was. I figured you might fall asleep on me if I did it at the regular speed. So I'm going to jump around a little bit. But what was interesting too is I found that I had to turn my brush to keep a flow going. I had to lay down a stroke and then maybe turn it on its side and then maybe turn it on its back to get the rest of the paint. But I quickly realized this is going to be a beautiful way to paint. The expression of it was beautiful. The mark making was beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and speed it up even more so you can get a feel for this. So I've just made a soft gray using the blue, the red, the white, and a little bit of the yellow, the same colors we've used except for the green. I'm going to drop back to this wider flat, but it's still very long. I'm going to hold it at the very end. I'm going to take a big scoop of paint. Wow. Look at those brush strokes. So you just can't get a tight painting with this. Wow. So of course I don't have much control going around this flower. So I'm just going to have to go slow and be intentional. You could wait until the painting dries. But, you know, if I was doing this in oils and I'm not, oops, darn. So right there, I went over it. I just kind of lost control of it. It almost takes more control to give up control, if that makes sense at all. You know, when you're clamped down on this, you feel like you're really driving the car, but when you're holding this back here, you're just hoping a bus doesn't hit you, you know, because you just don't have that much control over it. I like these little streaks I'm getting in the paint. I'm not trying to, oops, we did get a little green there. So I'm taking a lot of paint on the end of this brush. And I think that's going to help with this painterly look. And I'm not trying to get the brush strokes to go in the same direction. I'm letting them turn, but you can also use this to carve out a shape if you've messed your drawing up. Wow. Because I'm left-handed, I think I'm going to turn this to go this way. I just don't feel like I can hardly. See, I keep creeping up on this. I'm having to force myself to go back to the end. It's like if you played softball as a kid and you tried to steal a plate and they make you go back to the base. Like, get back. Gosh, this is so much fun though. This is, wow. I had the thought doing this. I wonder if this is kind of what God had in mind with painting, because I feel like it's kind of bringing out the child in me, because it is so much fun and it is so out of control and it's just kind of wonky. And I don't mind these ridges of paint that I'm getting. It'd be fun to try this with my house paints. I don't know if you've seen, I've done some videos on using house paints, particularly when I'm doing backgrounds. They're so cheap and they've got a lot of good body to them. They're great with big brushes. So I'm going to have to mix a little more paint to get this background in. I don't want to bore you with it. I'll let you see the finished product. I thought the gray background was a little too dull for my taste, so I used Naples yellow and my white house paint and put in this beautiful soft buttery yellow, and yellow is the complement of purple, so I thought that was a great look. I also felt like the greens were way too dark, so I went in and put some highlights on those, and look at how the brush mark is still standing out. There are so few paintings I've ever done where you really saw all the individual brush marks. I love this method. You're going to be seeing more from me on this. You know, I've had this quest to be a looser painter from day one, and one of my favorite videos is going to be coming up next. It's 3 keys for having a more painterly look. So I encourage you to check that out. And I'm probably going to have to do a new video so I can include this fourth method of getting way back on a long paintbrush to get a more painterly style. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video, I sure would appreciate a thumbs up. And if you'll hit subscribe, you'll be sure not to miss the next free video that's coming out soon. And speaking of free, I have a free download for you at my website. I also have very inexpensively priced courses and shorter tutorials if you want to see more real-time instruction. Thanks so much for your time. I don't take it lightly. God bless.